Footage. This is the first footage showing damage to late Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei's compound in Tehran. The video released on the day of his burial, following his death in the first day of the US-Israeli war on Iran, February 28th.
Gaza officials report 9 Palestinians killed in Israeli attacks despite an ongoing ceasefire. Casualties include victims of airstrikes and gunfire. 4 people, including a woman, killed in strike on displacement shelter in Khan Yunis.
US announces it will remove Syria from its state sponsors of terrorism list, easing restrictions that block investment. Marco Rubio says the move aims to boost trade and international engagement under Syrian leader al-Shara.
Russia slams NATO's new defense aid pledges to Ukraine, calls them irresponsible and warns that they could lead to disaster. Moscow accuses European countries of militarizing continent and preparing for possible conflict with Russia.
Militants kill 18 abducted police officers and 11 soldiers in separate attacks in Pakistan's Balochistan. Military says the violence has killed 42 people since Monday, while Pakistan forces killed 54 militants in the operations.
The Federal Reserve's latest meeting minutes shows officials weighing inflation risks while holding rates steady. Investors are watching for clues on Chair Kevin Warsh's approach and what it could mean for future interest rate decisions. The US military has struck Iranian targets near the Strait of Hormuz for second straight day.
Iran reported explosions in multiple locations along the southern coast. Reports said that US military launched cruise missiles at 2 railway bridges in northeastern Iran. Iranian state media reported that warplanes over Kish Island and explosions in port cities of Bandar Abbas, Konark and Jabar. A fireman was reported killed after the attack on Iran Sheher airport. And this comes a day after both the United States and Iran said that they had hit dozens of targets in the initial wave of attacks, which Iranian state television said had killed 8 Iranian military personnel.
Meanwhile, the Kuwait Army has said that its air defenses are confronting hostile missile and drone attacks, while Bahrain's Interior Ministry reported air raid sirens sounding in the kingdom. Meanwhile, President Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One that Iranian officials have called and want to make a deal. In fact, earlier in a social media post, President Trump had warned that if Tehran struck commercial ships again, the response will get much worse.
We just hit them very hard, and I say we hit them 20-1. Every time they hit us, we're going to hit them 20. And we did it last night. We did a little something today, but it was really retribution for last night.
The US official said Wednesday's strikes are wider in scope than Tuesday's strikes. And CENTCOM said that its forces struck more than 80 targets in Iran on Tuesday. Now, in response, Iran claimed to hit dozens of US military facilities in Kuwait and Bahrain.
The Strait of Hormuz remains a flashpoint in the conflict. Since the attacks, Tehran has insisted on controlling the strait, saying it will charge fees for passage and even threatening to hit vessels that deviate from its authorized route. Its military struck at least 3 ships in recent days, prompting extensive US strikes against Iranian targets on Tuesday. All 3 vessels recently struck were sailing close to Oman, which had proposed a temporary transit corridor hugging its coastline.
Maritime traffic had tentatively resumed after Washington and Tehran signed the deal to end hostilities last month, but almost 6,000 seafarers remain stranded in the area. And the Lebanese state media reported that an Israeli drone strike in southern Lebanon killed 2 people near a hospital in Upper Nabathie. The attack came despite a ceasefire and followed another strike on the same town.
Well, 2 days earlier, that killed 4 civilians at his. In another development, the Israeli military said that it captured a Hezbollah militant during clashes in southern Lebanon's Ben Jebel area and even transferred him to Israel for questioning. The military identified him as a member of Hezbollah's elite Radwan force and accused him of attacks against Israeli forces as well as civilians.
Meanwhile, according to a diplomatic source, Lebanon has made Israel's withdrawal from 2 pilot zones in southern Lebanon a condition for joining the next round of direct negotiations in Rome on the 15th and 16th of July. The talks aim to move towards a permanent agreement, with the US telling both sides that a framework deal would mark the end of one phase and the start of another.
The source went on to say that Israel agreed to hold the talks in Rome as a way to ease pressure from Washington, while Lebanon received assurances that the US would maintain its involvement and approach during the negotiations going forward.
Well, in the latest development, Hezbollah chief Naim Qasim rejected the US-backed framework agreement between Israel and Lebanon, saying not a single clause of this agreement will pass.
Ultimately, not a single clause of this agreement will pass, and you won't be able to do anything about it. The framework agreement concluded by the Lebanese authorities is entirely in Israel's interest. If Israel had decided to draft this agreement alone, it couldn't have done so without the cooperation of America and the Lebanese authorities.
Israel and Lebanon previously held 5 rounds of US-sponsored talks aimed at ending the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. They reached a framework agreement calling for Hezbollah's disarmament and a gradual Israeli withdrawal as the Lebanese army deploys to designated zones.
However, Hezbollah has rejected the deal, which lacks a clear withdrawal timeline. Israel has said that its forces will remain in a 10-kilometer security zone as long as Hezbollah remains armed.
Furthermore, Amnesty International accused Israel of wiping out families in its strikes on Lebanon during its war with Hezbollah, calling for these attacks to be investigated as war crimes. Amnesty analyzed 3 strikes on civilian homes between March 6th and 13th, in which 24 civilians were killed, 12 of them children.
As the US president wrapped up the NATO summit in Turkey, Trump flew out of Ankara on an older Air Force One instead of the newly retrofitted Qatari-donated jet.
Well, this last-minute switch drew immediate attention as Trump had arrived in Ankara aboard the new aircraft. He later boarded the new plane again in Mildenhall in Britain for the flight back to Washington. Now, the plane swap followed months of scrutiny over this luxury jet given to the US president by Qatar, which is serving as a temporary replacement while Boeing works to deliver the long-delayed next-generation Air Force One aircraft. Trump said on Truth Social that he chose to fly the older baby blue Air Force One for old time's sake from Ankara to Air Force Base in Mildenhall, while the new jet stopped there so US service members could tour the aircraft.
The new plane featuring a red, white, dark blue and gold livery chosen by Trump is a Boeing 747 gifted to the US by Qatar last year and retrofitted by defense contractor. Its rapid conversion has prompted questions from some aviation and security experts about whether it has the same defensive capabilities as the existing Air Force One aircraft.
A second aircraft capable of operating as Air Force One routinely accompanies the president on overseas trips. That's a routine practice. When asked in Ankara whether security threats or assassination concerns had prompted this plane switch, Trump did not answer directly but acknowledged the possibility of a threat.
No, I'm number 1 on the kill list for Iran. They're lovely people. I'm number 1. So I don't know. I can't tell you that, but I don't really care because I'm doing my job and I'm doing it, I hope, better than anybody's ever done it because we have a country that's hot and really, really successful. But I mention it only because it's on the list. I mean, it came out. There was another list came out yesterday, and I'm number one on. I like being number one on TikTok better, but I'm number one on the list for killing.
A direct battle between NATO and Russia may be decided before the first missile is even launched.
And adding to that, Shivan, as alliance leaders meet at the NATO summit, a new weapon has quietly entered service. It does not fire missiles or even launches bombs. It processes information faster than any human command room. Its code name is Maven. Our next story gets you the details.
A satellite spots an armored column. A drone captures fresh movement. A radar tracks incoming aircraft. And an intelligence report arrives from another country. That is how militaries around the world operate. Inside war rooms, military commanders had to piece these fragments together, often racing against the clock. Now, an artificial intelligence system is doing it in seconds. NATO has declared full operational capability for the Maven Smart system at its military headquarters, marking one of the alliance's biggest steps into AI-enabled warfare. Developed by Palantir, Maven is designed to fuse vast streams of intelligence into a single battlefield, drawing out a picture almost instantly. Palantir's Maven Smart system was originally born out of the Pentagon's Project Maven. It works like a smart high-tech map for the military. It connects battlefield data directly to soldiers to speed up decisions. After pinpointing the target, the AI system also identifies the best weapon to use, following which a human soldier clicks a button to approve the strike. The deployment of Maven comes as NATO's leaders gather for a summit in Turkey dominated by Russia's war in Ukraine, rising defense spending and the future of European security. In fact, the US used Maven Smart system to help strike more than 1,000 targets during the first 24 hours of the war in Iran, marking a 10-fold increase over what was possible earlier. However, the technology raises difficult questions. AI-assisted targeting has drawn scrutiny after reports linked automated intelligence systems to controversial military operations, including the discussions surrounding incidents such as the strike on a school in Iran's Minab, where 156 civilians were killed, including 120 school children. Critics argue that faster algorithms do not eliminate the risk of flawed intelligence or civilian harm. Military planners counter that, saying AI supports human judgment rather than replacing it. For NATO, Maven represents more than new software. It is an acknowledgement that the confrontation with Russia is entering a new technological era. The alliance is preparing not just for a war of tanks and missiles, it is preparing for a war of algorithms. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
President Donald Trump said that there was love and a lot of unity at the NATO summit in Ankara as he wrapped up the summit.
Well, the summit began with Trump lashing out at his allies as he condemned Spain and made renewed claims on Greenland. But he later softened that tone and offered an unexpected warm embrace to the allies.
Now, we just had our NATO meeting, and it was a great meeting. You probably heard it was a great meeting. There was a lot of love in that room, a lot of unity. And I don't think it could have been, Mark, what do you think? It couldn't have gone much better. Yeah.
Trump also spoke more warmly of Volodymyr Zelensky when he met the Ukrainian president. in stark contrast to the tongue-lashing he gave him at the White House, that is, in the meeting last year. Listen into what he had to say.
So we had a really good meeting, and we thought this would be a good time for President Zelensky and I to meet, and we'll see what we can do. But we've actually developed a good relationship. It's hard to believe, right? From the Oval Office to now, I think we've developed a very good relationship. We've settled a lot of wars, and this one is the one that I thought maybe would be the easiest. But Putin's a difficult character, and this guy's a difficult character. It's not the easiest thing, and there's a lot of commitment, and there's a lot of love of the countries and everything else. But I think we've made a lot of progress in the last couple of weeks, and we'll see how it all goes.
For more details, our colleague Susan Tehrani has sent us a report from New York.
The NATO summit may be over, but the focus now shifts to whether President Trump can maintain allied support as tensions with Iran continue to rise. Trump left the summit saying NATO members had stepped up defense spending while reiterating that allies must continue carrying a greater share of the burden. The alliance now faces the challenge of balancing deterrence against Iran with avoiding a broader regional conflict. As Trump heads to the United Kingdom, he's also making an unexpected switch in presidential aircraft. Despite recently unveiling a refurbished Boeing 747 donated by Qatar as the new Air Force One, Trump says that he'll travel aboard the older presidential jet for old time's sake, while the new aircraft flies separately to a U.S. airbase in Britain for American service members to tour. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
The mystery around last week's bombing in Monaco has deepened.
The woman identified as the main suspect in this attack has been found dead in Ukraine. Authorities say she was shot, and two men, including a Ukrainian intelligence officer, are now accused of her murder. Ukrainian authorities say her body was found with gunshot wounds to the head. Police also recovered pistol casings from the scene. Investigators have detained two men in connection with her killing. They say the murder was planned. One of the suspects is a serving officer with Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Agency.
Police say that he admitted to killing Berezovska and accused a former law enforcement officer of helping him. The suspect was named by Interpol as 39-year-old Anastasia Berezovska, who was born in Ukraine and had recently been living in Germany. Investigators say that she arrived in Ukraine by bus on 1st of July and stayed in touch with her family and two suspects before her death.
The police also found that the two men had been sending her money through bank transfers and cryptocurrency payments as well, and that led investigators to look into their possible connection with the Monaco bombing.
The latest development comes after a bomb attack shook Monaco last week. The explosion took place at the entrance of a luxury apartment building and targeted Ukrainian-born businessman Vadim Yermolev.
Well, 3 people were injured in the blast, including Yermolev, a woman, and a 13-year-old child. Now, with the key suspect dead, 2 men facing charges, investigators are trying to answer one central question in this entire case. Who was really behind the Monaco bombing? China has taken another step to increase its presence around Taiwan.
Well, for the first time, its Coast Guard has begun what it calls law enforcement patrols in waters east of the island.
Well, a Taiwan official says that China's actions risk creating a new status quo. The patrols reportedly involve at least 2 Coast Guard vessels operating about 80 to 140 miles off Taiwan's eastern coast. They follow a similar deployment last month and are being seen as part of China's broader effort to strengthen its claims over Taiwan. During the patrols, Chinese Coast Guard officers reportedly contacted cargo ships passing through the area, asking for details about their crews and destinations. It is the first time China has taken such a step in these waters.
Chinese state media said that the operation was a response to discussions between Japan and the Philippines over a maritime boundary. Taiwan, however, called it an attempt to expand China's reach, while several Western governments even expressed concerns over the new activity.
They try to establish a model, and they try to establish their presence. They try to establish a model where that the shipping community feels the need to report to them. And all of them failed because they are still far from it, but they're starting to try. That's why we are saying to the international society, friends and colleagues, that we need to stop China at the early stage. We need to make sure that China never succeed and cannot succeed.
China says one group of Coast Guard ships has now been replaced by another, which will continue the patrols, while Chinese fighter jets and naval vessels already operate around Taiwan almost daily. Analysts note that Coast Guard patrols east of Taiwan had previously been limited to military exercises. Experts even say that these latest operations signal an effort to establish a more permanent presence rather than simply send a political message.
Alright viewers, this is World DNA. We are going to slip into a very short break. Please come back. Just a reminder before that, this is to all our viewers in India. You can watch all 2026 FIFA World Cup matches on Z5. France take on Morocco in the quarterfinal. Tune in to watch all the action live. Stay with us.
Israeli drone is above our heads all the time in Lebanon. More than 200,000 civilian homes have been destroyed. This looks like it used to be a toy for a little girl. Can't but wonder while I'm walking between all of this rubble, how many lives were destroyed, how many kids were traumatized, how many women lost their families. If this isn't a war crime, then what is? From the southern suburb of Beirut, I'm Radi Francis for WION The World is One.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
Get the latest updates. Breaking news. Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
The Israeli drone is above our heads all the time in Lebanon. 200,000 civilian homes have been destroyed. This looks like it used to be a toy for a little girl. Can't but wonder while I'm walking between all of this rubble, how many lives were destroyed, how many kids were traumatized, how many women lost their families. If this isn't a war crime, then what is? From the southern suburb of Beirut, I'm Radi Francis for WION The World is One.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
Get the latest updates. Breaking news. Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Samiksha. I'm Shivan. Let's start with the headlines.
Prime Minister Modi meets Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in Melbourne and calls for stronger India-Australia ties amid global challenges, invites Australian investment in India's energy sector and urges pension funds to explore opportunities.
We just hit them very hard, and I say we hit them 20-1. Every time they hit us, we're going to hit them 20.
Donald Trump says the US has hit Iran very hard after the attacks on cargo ships in the Strait of Hormuz and warns of massive retaliation, saying the US would respond 20-1 to any further attacks.
Iran warns US of retaliation after fresh US strikes on Iranian targets. Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf says bullying and breaking promises are no longer cost-free. If you strike, you'll get hit. Also warns that Hormuz Strait will not reopen threats.
Iran, for the first time, releases footage showing the damage to late Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei's compound in Tehran when it was targeted on the 28th of February, first day of the war. The video released on the day of his burial, and it follows the death.
Donald Trump leaves Turkey on an older Air Force One instead of newly renovated Qatari-donated jet that took him there. Later boards the new aircraft in UK during his return trip to Washington.
Russia pledges continued military support for Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger during Foreign Minister Lavrov's visit to Niger. Junta-led Sahel states have strengthened ties with Moscow after cutting links with France and the West.
Militants kill 18 abducted police officers and 11 soldiers in separate attacks in Pakistan's Balochistan. Military says the violence has killed 42 people since Monday, while Pakistani forces killed 54 militants in operations.
Russia has banned diesel exports until the end of July to tackle fuel shortages worsened by Ukrainian strikes on energy sites. The move sent US diesel futures sharply higher, posting their biggest daily gain in 4 years as markets reacted to tighter global supplies.
The funeral procession for slain Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has reached Iraq's Karbala and Najaf.
Well, it has drawn tens of thousands of mourners to two of Shia Islam's holiest cities.
Khamenei's remains arrived in Karbala on Wednesday, where thousands lined the streets and packed the Imam Hussein shrine as a casket moved slowly through the city under heavy security presence.
Crowds surrounded the truck that was carrying the coffin, waving Iranian flags and holding portraits of the former Iranian Supreme Leader.
We came here for Imam Khamenei, who stood against America and Israel, which we consider forces of disbelief. He is the only one who stood up to America and said no. Thanks be to God, he did not say yes to them. He said no.
The casket had earlier arrived in Najaf, where thousands had gathered at the Imam Ali shrine. Mourners carried the coffin through the shrine complex, many even pushing forward to touch it. Iranian President Pezeshkian and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi had also accompanied the early Iraqi procession.
Now, the mourning extended beyond Iraq. In southern Lebanon's Beirut suburbs, Hezbollah supporters, including women and children, they gathered for a memorial ceremony. They vowed to continue what they called the path of resistance despite Khamenei's death. Meanwhile, Iranian state television released footage, and this is released for the first time, showing a mosque inside Khamenei's residential compound that was destroyed on the 28th of February in Israeli strikes with US intelligence. And these were the strikes that killed Khamenei. The images were released just a day before Khamenei's burial in his hometown of Mashhad.
Iran began 6 days of funeral ceremonies on Saturday. The procession started in Tehran, passed through the holy city of Qom, and reached Iraq, which is one of Tehran's closest regional allies. Khamenei was killed on 28th of February in large-scale US and Israeli strikes that also killed several members of his family as well as some senior Iranian leaders.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Australia. This is the second leg of his three-nation tour.
As he met his Australian counterpart, Anthony Albanese, at a business forum, and they are now scheduled to hold bilateral talks later in the day.
Key agreements are expected to be finalized, including uranium exports to India. Now, ahead of this, Prime Minister Modi is attending the India-Australia CEO Forum and Economic Roadmap Business Reception in Melbourne. The business engagements aim to further boost trade, investment and economic cooperation between India and Australia.
हॉल में भारत और ऑस्ट्रेलिया की बिजनेस पावर और बिजनेस एम्बिशन के दर्शन एक साथ हो रहे हैं। आप सबकी यहां उपस्थिति हमारे शेयर्ड कॉन्फिडेंस और शेयर्ड एस्पिरेशंस का प्रतीक है। आज दुनिया अनसर्टेनिटी, सप्लाई चेन डिसरप्शन और एनर्जी क्राइसिस के दौर से गुजर रही है। ऐसे समय में भारत और ऑस्ट्रेलिया का नेचुरल और ट्रस्टेड पार्टनर के रूप में आगे बढ़ना।
The bilateral talks with Prime Minister Albanese will take place at the Government House. The leaders are expected to discuss ways to strengthen cooperation in critical minerals, trade, defence and security cooperation. According to reports, an agreement on uranium exports to India could also be finalised. India and Australia signed a civil nuclear cooperation agreement in 2014, but uranium exports have remained limited due to safeguards to ensure the fuel is used only for peaceful purposes, including energy generation.
On Wednesday, upon his arrival in Melbourne, Prime Minister Modi received a rousing welcome from the Indian diaspora. A large number of community members gathered to welcome the Prime Minister, chanting slogans.
The cultural reception also featured a Kathak performance which drew praise from Prime Minister Modi. I think first two lines. Shifting focus then, Pakistan is facing violent insurgency in Balochistan with three separate militant attacks that have been reported in last 4 days that have killed 42 people.
The death toll also includes 18 police officers and 11 soldiers. The latest attack took place in Mangi Dam district. According to local officials, a gunman stormed a checkpoint guarding the dam, killing 9 police officers and several others missing. Speaking at a press briefing, military spokesman Ahmad Sharif Chaudhry vowed to hunt and hurt the attackers. He said Pakistani forces have killed 54 militants in the ongoing operations.
So,
in the 3 major operations that I mentioned to you, 4 civilians were killed, and before and after that, our police personnel and army soldiers also lost their lives. In total, our casualties are 42 precious lives of this country that they have sacrificed to Allah Almighty while protecting their homeland, fighting bravely, and there are 54 terrorists who have been confirmed killed, those who were involved in these operations.
Pakistan has failed to tackle renewed crisis in Balochistan in the month of May. 24 people were killed in a blast targeting a train carrying military personnel. It was in the provincial capital of Quetta. Even earlier, Pakistan security forces killed almost 200 separatists in the province in the month of February.
Well, in January, Balochistan Liberation Army, BLA, launched Operation Herof 2.0, a wave of large-scale coordinated militant attacks targeting over a dozen cities and 48 locations across Pakistan's Balochistan province. Not just Balochistan, Pakistan is facing insurgencies on all fronts. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, TTP, has claimed various attacks in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, while Pakistan-occupied Kashmir is witnessing sporadic protests demanding removal of the Pakistani army.
The entire crisis is unraveling at a time when Pakistan's army chief Asim Munir is engaging in diplomacy to end tensions between Iran and the US. But at the home front, Pakistan's army soldiers are facing attacks, abductions and killings.
Now, an online game link is being probed in the case of a 15-year-old boy from Gwalior who has been missing since the 30th of June.
Well, the boy's mother has told the police that his son Prince was a regular player of the online game Free Fire. She suspects someone may have lured her son away, either with the promise of money or through deception. Investigators even learned from his friends that he had been playing the game for nearly 8 years and was connected with multiple online players from other states as well. Police examining his mobile phone found multiple user IDs, WhatsApp chats, call records, and transaction details.
Now, a resident of Gwalior's Mehra colony, Prince left home last month without informing anyone and has not returned since. The family has searched various places but has so far failed to trace him. A FIR has been registered at the local police station, with the mother now seeking a crime branch probe into the case. Police are examining CCTV footage to trace Prince's movements after he went missing. Investigators are looking into whether he left home alone and whether he boarded a train towards New Delhi.
Well, Hyderabad's battle against dengue just got a notch tougher. Even as the city's municipal corporation continues fogging operations and even anti-larval drives, scientists say that the dengue virus itself has evolved in ways what make containment more difficult.
Now, a study by Hyderabad's Indian Institute of Chemical Technology has found that decades of chemical fogging and routine interventions may have unintentionally driven a certain mosquito breed and the dengue virus to evolve. Researchers have found that the dengue virus can alter gene expression in the mosquito responsible for yellow fever and even interfere with its nervous system. The virus essentially turns the mosquito into a more efficient carrier of the disease, leading scientists to describe it as a zombie vector. Essentially, researchers have found that the virus is actively shifting and even mutating structurally.
Scientists have uncovered an even more alarming trend. Their pathogen surveillance in Hyderabad suggests that the dengue virus is not just evolving but also rewiring the behavior of its mosquito host, and that is by disrupting the mosquito's internal biological clock. The findings could potentially help explain why measures such as fogging and even seasonal anti-larval campaigns are struggling to keep pace with the spread of dengue cases in Hyderabad and other cities across the country.
Well, dengue has long been a major public health challenge in Hyderabad, with cases typically rising during and after the monsoon season. To curb the spread of the disease, the Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation carries out a range of vector control measures. Health teams also conduct door-to-door inspections to identify and eliminate stagnant water in coolers, flower pots, construction sites, and other breeding grounds. The American stock market isn't just an investment vehicle anymore, it's becoming the country's de facto pension system as well.
Well, in this next report, we decode how that changes everything on Washington's response to next equity market crash. Take a look.
Gallup's April survey found 58% of US adults own stock directly or through funds, and the wealthiest 1% alone hold over 50% of all corporate equities. That's not a niche investor class anymore. That's a voting bloc. Now add Trump accounts to the mix. More than 500,000 children's accounts received their first $1,000 government deposit when trading launched on July 4th. With 6 million families already signed up, Wells Fargo estimates these accounts could funnel nearly $20 billion into markets this year alone. That is a permanent new buyer base layered in from birth. Why does this matter for crisis policy? Because Social Security is running out of runway. The Retirement Trust Fund is projected to be depleted by the December quarter of 2032, just 6 years away. That is likely to trigger an automatic 22% benefit cut if Congress does nothing. As the state safety net phrase, the stock market is quietly stepping into its place. Put those two trends together of mass equity ownership plus a wobbling public pension system, and the political cost of a prolonged bear market becomes almost unbearable for any administration. That's the logic behind the theory gaining traction on trading desks. So, the Federal Reserve could eventually buy equity ETFs directly in the next major downturn, following the precedent it set with corporate bond ETFs during the pandemic. And that path has already been carved by Japan and China's central banks. Stock bears keep getting run over, and now we know why. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
And from the world of tech, France's competition watchdog has ordered Meta to resume talks with French news publishers.
And this is after the ruling that the company may have abused its dominant market position in a dispute over payments for news content. The decision marks the latest battle between media organizations and big tech over the use of publishers' content online. The case was brought by French media groups DVP and APIG, which accused Meta of failing to pay for the use of their news content since 2025. The publisher said Meta tried to impose its own method of calculating fees, while refusing to provide the information needed to assess fair remuneration. France's competition authority said Meta was likely to have abused its dominant position and even ordered the company to submit a payment proposal within 15 days. The regulator also directed Meta to resume negotiations with the aim of reaching a new licensing agreement. The dispute centers on the European Union's neighboring rights rules, which allow news publishers to seek payment when their content is reused on digital platforms. The authority said that it did not impose a fine so as not to influence the outcome of the commercial negotiations.
Well, Meta has also said that it disagreed with the regulator's decisions but would continue to engage in the negotiation process. The company said that it remains committed to reaching a fair agreement with the publishers. France has been at the forefront of enforcing the European Union's news payment rules, with several major technology companies already facing regulatory action over digital publishing rights as a whole.
All right, let's look at some updates from the entertainment sector. Manish Malhotra made his Paris debut in the Pavilion Cambon. The Indian designer dedicated the collection to his mother.
Well, Indian filmmaker Karan Johar was one of the celebrities who was seen in attendance. Malhotra has titled his latest collection as Ma. Through his work, the designer wanted to pay tribute to the woman who encouraged his dreams of cutting fabric instead of playing cricket. In his designs, Malhotra has taken the plunge to Paris with a series of dramatic looks that included Indian artisanal technologies and techniques. Many outfits included knots and tassels harking back to the mother-child bond. Some of his work had sculpted mother-child imagery or a chest plate embroidered onto the dress, or even knitted in heavy wool re-imaging the cocoon of motherly love. Whether it was speeds, metallic, pearls, thread, cotton or satin detailing, the gowns showcased extreme craftsmanship.
Now, Manish Malhotra's debut is a monumental triumph for India. His debut marks a definitive shift in how Indian craftsmanship is valued on the global stage. By weaving intricate Indian artisanal techniques and deeply personal cultural narratives into the elite sphere of Parisian high fashion, Malhotra has elevated traditional heritage into a universal statement of luxury.
Shifting focus to FIFA highlights then, a traditional Chinese embroidery art has found a place on the global stage.
And this is after being included in the official merchandise for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. In Nanhua County in southwest China, hundreds of artisans are handcrafting World Cup themed products, including scarves, caps and bags. And that will be sold through official FIFA retail channels around the world. And this marks the first time a Chinese intangible cultural heritage craft has been included in the official licensed product range for a FIFA World Cup.
I think the craftsmanship of these embroiderers is amazing. Each piece tells an ancient Chinese story and represents such an important part of Chinese culture. And I can tell each piece takes a long time to make perfect. Combining these works with the World Cup feels really wonderful.
With a history spanning nearly 1800 years, the embroidery is an important part of ethnic Yi community's cultural heritage. Having already been showcased at international fashion events, the craft is now reaching football fans across the globe.
We've already taken our Yi embroidery products and costumes to international stages like Milan Fashion Week and Paris Fashion Week.
All right, viewers, that's a wrap on this edition of World DNA. We are going to take a very short break. Here's a reminder to all our viewers before that. You can watch all 2026 FIFA World Cup matches on Z5. France take on Morocco in the quarterfinal. Tune in to watch all the action live. This is WION World is One. Stay with us.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION, World is One.
The Israeli drone is above our heads all the time in Lebanon. More than 200,000 civilian homes have been destroyed. This looks like it used to be a toy for a little girl. Can't but wonder while I'm walking between all of this rubble, how many lives were destroyed, how many kids were traumatized, how many women lost their families. If this isn't a war crime, then what is? From the southern suburb of Beirut, I'm Radi Francis for WION, World is One.
Get the latest updates. Breaking news. Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Adhya Juneja and this is Speed News. Let's start with all the stories making headlines today. The US launched strikes on Iranian targets for a second straight day, with explosions reported across southern Iran and near the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian state media said cruise missiles hit 2 railway bridges in northeastern Iran, while warplanes flew over Kesh Island and blast rocked the port cities of Bandar Abbas, Konarak and Chabur. Well, the latest offensive follows the first wave of US-Iran attacks a day earlier after both sides said that they had struck dozens of targets. Iranian state television said the initial strikes killed 8 Iranian military personnel. Explosions shook Bahrain's capital, Manama, on Thursday, moments after air raid sirens warned residents of an incoming attack. The blast came hours after Iran's Revolutionary Guards vowed a devastating response to new US strikes on Iranian territory. In neighboring Kuwait, the military said its air defense systems intercepted hostile missile and drone attacks, adding that the explosions heard across the country were caused by interception efforts. Iranian guards have now threatened to expand strikes further. US President Donald Trump warned Tehran of much worse if it continues to target vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Despite the military action, he said he expected the latest flare-up to end quickly and left the door open for further talks. US Central Command reported that the strikes were aimed at degrading Iran's ability to threaten freedom of navigation through the strategic waterway, adding that Washington was holding Tehran accountable for its recent unjustified aggression against commercial shipping. Iran's chief negotiator Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said that the Strait of Hormuz will only reopen under Iranian arrangements following a series of strikes exchanged between Tehran and Washington. In a statement on X, Ghalibaf accused the United States of relying on bullying and warned that any further attack would trigger a response from Iran. As tensions escalate, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged maximum restraint from all sides. Well, this call was supported by Pakistan, which has played a key mediating role in US-Iran talks. Iran also signaled support for diplomacy, saying Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and Qatar's Prime Minister spoke by phone and stressed the importance of resolving regional tensions through diplomatic means. Lebanese state media reported that an Israeli drone strike near a hospital in southern Lebanon's Nabatieh al-Fawqa killed 2 people despite an ongoing ceasefire. Well, the strike followed another attack on the same town 2 days earlier that killed 4 civilians. Meanwhile, the Israeli military said it captured a Hezbollah militant during clashes in Bnei Jebel area and transferred him to Israel for questioning. The military identified him as a member of Hezbollah's elite Radwan force and accused him of carrying out attacks against Israeli troops and civilians. Lebanon demanded that Israel withdraw from 2 pilot zones in its southern region before taking part in the next round of direct talks in Rome. Well, the discussions are focused on a US-backed framework aimed at ending the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, which includes Hezbollah disarmament and a gradual Israeli withdrawal. However, the agreement remains unresolved, with Hezbollah rejecting the deal and Israel insisting its forces will stay in a 10-kilometer security zone as long as Hezbollah remains armed. Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem has rejected the US-backed framework agreement between Israel and Lebanon, saying the deal will not be approved. While speaking at a memorial event in Beirut for Iran's late supreme leader, Qassem said Hezbollah would oppose every part of the agreement aimed at ending the conflict between the 2 sides. Hezbollah supporters gathered in Lebanon's southern Beirut suburbs for a memorial ceremony for Iran's late Supreme Leader Khomeini, mourning his death and vowing to continue what they call the path of resistance. Attendees said the loss of the leader would not end their struggle, pledging to continue their fight against Israel. The body of Iran's late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei reached the Iraqi holy city of Karbala on Wednesday, where thousands of mourners gathered for funeral ceremonies. His casket was carried through the city to the Imam Hussein shrine, with crowds lining the streets and surrounding the funeral procession to pay their respects. The ceremonies are part of a multi-day state funeral that began in Iran on Saturday. New footage released by Iran's Supreme Leader's office shows the aftermath of an attack on Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's residential compound in Tehran. The site was verified through matching structural damage and visual details with satellite images, though the exact date of the recording could not be confirmed. Iranian state media reported Khamenei's death on 28th of February following US-Israeli strikes. The strikes marked the beginning of a wider regional war that spread across West Asia. Israeli airstrikes and gunfire killed at least 9 Palestinians in Gaza on Wednesday, including 2 children aged 6 and 10, according to health officials. Medics said strikes hit areas near a school in Gaza City and a displacement camp in Khan Yunis, leaving several others wounded. The Israeli military said it targeted militants in Gaza City but was unaware of reported casualties. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Australia on the second leg of his three-nation tour, where he met Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese at a business forum in Melbourne. The two leaders are expected to hold bilateral talks with key agreements on trade, investment and possible uranium exports to India set to be discussed. While PM Modi is also attending the India-Australia CEO Forum and Economic Roadmap reception aimed at expanding business cooperation between the two countries. Russia has criticized NATO's continued support for Ukraine, calling the alliance's pledge of billions in defense aid irresponsible. Moscow also accused European countries of preparing for a possible confrontation with Russia. Now, President Vladimir Putin blamed Ukraine for trying to weaken Russia's economy through intensified drone attacks on oil refineries, but said the country's energy system remains highly resilient. Russia has banned diesel exports in an effort to ease a growing fuel shortage due to repeated Ukrainian strikes against energy infrastructure. More than 90% of Russian regions have reported fuel shortages or rationing since June, with motorists facing long queues and empty petrol stations. Drivers in the St. Petersburg area described worsening conditions, with many stations either closed or running out of fuel. The United States has removed Syria from its list of state sponsors of terrorism, ending a decades-old designation that restricted foreign investment and economic ties. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has informed Congress of the move, which will take effect after 45 days. The announcement follows a meeting between Trump and Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara on the sidelines of a NATO summit in Turkey's Ankara. Al-Shara has worked to rebuild relations with the West after the fall of the Assad family's rule. The death toll from Venezuela's twin earthquakes has risen to 3,811, with more than 16,700 people injured and nearly 18,000 people left homeless, according to National Assembly President Jorge Rodriguez. But the June 24th quakes caused widespread destruction, prompting interim President Delcy Rodriguez to call for the lifting of international sanctions, saying blocked overseas assets could help fund recovery and reconstruction efforts. The UN has appealed for $296 million in emergency aid after a devastating earthquake in Venezuela, which killed more than 3,800 people. Thousands have been left homeless while rescue teams continue searching for missing victims in severely damaged areas like La Guaira. The funds will support relief operations for 1.3 million people over 6 months. Venezuela has also urged the release of frozen assets to help finance recovery efforts. A landslide hit the Sri Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine track on Wednesday evening, but the yatra continued unaffected. Officials said a landslide triggered by rain hit the Mata Vaishno Devi track atop the Trikuta Hills in Katra town of Resi district. According to reports, the Shrine Board had immediately rushed men and machines to clear the debris from the route, while the battery car service was temporarily suspended. The yatra continued smoothly via the old route as maintenance work continues on the landslide-hit areas. At least 7 children and a teacher were killed after a landslide hit a girls' school at a refugee camp in Bangladesh. The 8 individuals deceased were inside a classroom reciting their lecture as the landslide hit the already weak structure where Rohingya students regularly studied. Rescuers were able to remove debris and take out 5 children, while many others remained trapped. The Bangladesh Weather Office has forecasted more rain, leaving the overcrowded camps in Cox's Bazar at high risk of further landslides and flooding. High tide waves hit Mumbai's Marine Drive as the city battles with an intense monsoon onslaught. The city is recording staggering rainfall figures exceeding 300 mm in several areas. The metropolis has recently also faced a triple threat of extreme downpours, gusty winds and a high tide that surged over the iconic Marine Drive promenade. A two-story house collapsed in Vietnam's Lai Châu province after floodwaters triggered a landslide and eroded its foundation. State media reported that all 6 family members escaped safely just minutes before the building fell. At least one person was killed as severe flash floods swept through northern communities, damaging vehicles, crops and livestock. Meta has said 4 US states are seeking $1.4 trillion in penalties over allegations that Facebook and Instagram were designed to addict young users and mislead the public about their safety. The company called the demand unsupported and said that the proposed penalty has no precedent in the history of consumer protection enforcement. The case filed by California, Colorado, Kentucky and New Jersey is set to go to trial in August in California. Meta has denied all allegations and said it will continue to defend itself against the state's claims. China is reportedly planning to allow some of its leading AI companies to purchase a limited number of NVIDIA's H200 AI chips. According to reports, Alibaba, ByteDance and DeepSeek have been informed they could soon receive approval to buy the chips. Well, Beijing is said to be considering approval for fewer than 2 lakh H200 chips, which is less than half the number requested by the companies earlier this year. The move comes as Chinese tech firms face a growing shortage of AI computing power, while the government continues to support domestic chip development. SpaceX AI has launched Grok 4.5, describing it as its most advanced AI model yet for coding and agentic tasks. Well, the company says Grok 4.5 is trained using tens of thousands of NVIDIA GB300 GPUs and focuses on high-quality data processing. The model is now available through the Grok Build coding agent, Cursor, and the SpaceX AI developer console, with European availability expected in mid-July. SpaceX AI has priced Grok 4.5 at $2 per million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens, positioning it as a lower-cost option for developers. Asian markets rise on Thursday as chip stocks rebounded, led by gains in Nvidia, Samsung and SK Hynix. However, rising tensions in the Gulf pushed oil prices higher after President Trump said the Iran ceasefire agreement was over, though he later downplayed the risk of a wider war. Well, Brent crude hit its highest level in weeks, reviving inflation concerns and raising expectations that the US Federal Reserve could increase interest rates later this year. Oil prices climbed around 1% after the US launched fresh strikes on Iran, raising fears of prolonged conflict and fresh disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz. Brent crude traded near $79 a barrel, while US crude topped $74. The latest attacks followed Iran's assault on oil tankers, prompting insurers and ship owners to reassess voyages through the vital shipping route that carries about 1/5 of global oil supplies. Gold prices edged lower as renewed US-Iran hostilities fueled concerns over inflation and higher interest rates. Spot gold slipped after hitting a one-week low, while oil prices surged on fears of supply disruptions through the Strait of Hormuz. Investors are now betting the Federal Reserve could keep rates higher for longer, reducing gold's appeal. Meanwhile, the IMF cut its 2026 global growth forecast, adding to uncertainty in financial markets. Well, the FIFA World Cup quarter-finals are here. Title favourites France and African giants Morocco kick off the round in a rematch of the 2022 World Cup semi-final. While France definitely entered the clash as favourites once again, Morocco are a force to be reckoned with. France have been the standout team in the tournament and undoubtedly have the best set of attacking players at their disposal. Morocco are now the 6th highest ranked team in the world and have improved since that defeat 4 years back. A victory against France will be the greatest result in their history. Women's football star Alexia Putellas has completed her move to London City Lionesses. It is one of the biggest scoops in women's football history. Spain midfielder Putellas is widely regarded as one of the game's greatest players, and she left Barcelona after 14 years this summer. The 32-year-old won 38 trophies with Barcelona, including 10 league titles, so she was signed on a free transfer and was unveiled in New York City alongside London City's American billionaire owner, Michelle Kang. FIFA has announced that Canadian pop singer Justin Bieber will join Madonna, Shakira and BTS as a co-headliner for the World Cup final halftime show on 19th of July at the New York, New Jersey Stadium. The entire musical performance will last 11